Here we are.
We're back, baby. July, August, September, October, November. That's been 6 months. That's insane. Hello, and welcome to IMTS Spark. It is the What's New and What Works in Mold Manufacturing series, presented by Mold Making Technology. I'm Christina Fugis with Mold Making.
And I'm Ryan Delahanty with Mold Making Technology.
Okay, for those of you not familiar with mold making technology, it's been about 20 years now that mold making technology has addressed the complete life cycle of a mold from design to first shot. We focus on content, providing solutions and strategies to any mold making professional who designs, builds, maintains, repairs, and manages molds. We have a print, a digital, and a social presence, so be sure to check us out. You can begin at moldmakingtechnology.com. Okay, so this is session number two in 6 sessions being presented by Mold Making Technology that will take place from now until early March. So be sure to check out IMTS Spark for the full lineup and to get access to the live stream events. So throughout this series, Ryan and I are going to virtually sit down with several guests, including mold shop owners, mold makers, and some industry consultants who are focused on the mold manufacturing industry. And we're going to discuss just a few industry hot topics, trends, and challenges in the hopes of leaving those listening and watching with a few best practices and strategies that you can bring back to your shops. That is our hope. Okay, so today's session is all about apprenticeship and training. Our guests are here to speak about how they collaboratively built and continue to grow their apprenticeship program. All three are from Edro Engineering and Specialty Steels in Pennsylvania, actually not too far from me on the Philadelphia side of the state. We will open this session up to Q&A, so I want everybody out there to feel free to put any questions you have into the chat box, and we will do our best to get through as many as we can. All right, so let's get into this, Ryan. So Ryan, it's a thrill to have you back as my co-host. I think it's probably been about 6 months since AmeriMold Connects, and I have to say I kind of missed our on-screen time together.
Yeah, six months ago we were doing this, kind of flying by the seat of our pants, and just really enjoyed the opportunity at that time to connect with you. And more importantly, connect with the audiences that are out there in the mold making technology and mold manufacturing markets. It was a real great experience for me, and I know you really grew as well as a person through that as well.
Oh, thank you. All right. So when you and I were discussing this series for IMTS Spark, you watched a number of our MMT Chat, which is a video series I started during COVID to bring to light all the incredible things that mold shops across North America were accomplishing. And you said to me that this one stuck out to you as a good one. So we both thought it should be part of this discussion. But can you tell me a little bit, like, what actually grabbed you about this particular topic?
So there's a lot of things that when we talk about and get to watch some of the discussion today that you could really just think about it and pull through from the conversation, the MMT Chat. But two in particular I want to focus on. One is that apprenticeship workforce development part, which is really the bulk of what this conversation is about today. And it's just, you hear that word, that term in the market. We've heard it for a number of years. Many groups are working on workforce development, are working on apprenticeship programs, starting and stopping along the way. And one thing that I was really, that I was happy to learn about was how Edro kind of took a step back and realized what their challenges were in their business and put a plan together and executed the plan. And so today we're going to hear about that plan and learn a little bit and hear from the people that were part of the plan along the way, which I think is really, really cool. And we're going to learn about how it's growing, and it might be a model for companies to look at and think about, and how they partner with universities and go through developing that programming. The second part that's interesting, and I'm just interested in this in general, is that we've got a really interesting demographic phenomena that's going on, in particular in the United States, but all over the world, where we have really 3 huge demographic groups that are trying to figure out how they all work together. So you've got your baby boomers, you've got your Generation X, and then you've got Generation Y, which are commonly referred to as the millennials. And so, watching companies work through that, watching leading companies figure out ways to bring those folks together and leverage those strengths I think is something that also I was drawn to this conversation because you can see that happening in today's discussion. So anyway, those were two, Christina, that I thought were really, really pronounced.
Good feedback. And I agree with all that. I think it's going to be fun to have people watch the dynamic between these three gentlemen. But before we say any more, let's play the video clip. It's not the full conversation, but the video clip from the MMT chat where our three guests explain what they were looking for and how they built Edgerow's apprenticeship program together. Then we'll come back and we'll invite our guests into the discussion.
Great.
Well, what I'd say is this, really, Christina, that of course we're not in the plastics business, we're in the mold side of the business where we make and supply steels for use in those molds. So what we were looking for really was to try and build up a team of people for the future where they wouldn't just be salespeople, or they wouldn't just be people that we hired from different backgrounds, but people that were metallurgically trained, because steel is our business. So why not try to hire a team of people for the future who are educated in that? So that was the basic idea behind the initial thought. We then thought that we shouldn't hire people and put them into jobs. We should hire people and let them come and have an exposure really to all the main aspects of our business, and they could then decide and focus on really what they wanted to do during the 18-month program that we set up. And looking as we did, we went to the universities. First, we actually advertised in the paper. We got all kinds of people that said they could sell ice to Eskimos and everything. They were the people we wanted. And of course, it wasn't what we wanted at all. They had 25 years experience in this and that. And we were looking, and so then we approached the universities with material science programs, and Penn State was one that came back to us, and we have a close relationship with them there now. I think they like the program, and you know, that's really the background of the program here. I think that what we can add to the company for the future is getting people that are bright, people that have ambition, and people that are educated in the area that we are. And so that's basically the idea. And Nick and Rob fit this category perfectly, you know.
Perfectly.
They proved that in the last few years.
And I understand too that they were part of developing the program. They weren't just told to do this or that, right? They were actually part of developing it. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I just sort of put down what I thought we should have as a program when we started it, because we didn't have any apprentices then. And then it's more important that we do this together, so that we develop a program that isn't just what we think is great, but it's really a program that everybody, in particular the apprentices themselves, are excited about.
Right. So what is it about the program, Nick and Rob, that you thought was unique or was appealing to you?
I think the key for me looking at the program was it's kind of intimidating coming into the industry, especially because the industry seems to have so much experience and maybe a little bit older in general. So when you're coming in fresh with no experience and really not knowing the industry, it's intimidating. So this program really let us kind of go through the full process and learn our materials, learn how the business side works, and then explore the different customers and see how they run their businesses too. So it was really kind of going step by step and letting us go at our own pace and kind of develop this program with different trainings and really feel comfortable that way. Once I was actually alone and doing outside, I felt I was ready to go. And I think that was probably the same you kind of saw, right, Rob?
Yeah. For me, more specifically, it was kind of like you said, just trying to get your head around what these products are actually going to go into and what they're going to be put under in terms of, applications and stresses and that kind of thing. I think a lot of, especially more technical people can kind of get their heads down in the weeds and just focus on, getting the production done and getting everything out of the shop, but they're not really focusing on where this is actually going to end up. And, so just getting the customer's perspective and getting, the mold maker, die maker, what kind of issues they're having, and trying to just get a better picture and understanding of what you're doing in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah, absolutely. So from when you started till today, what is the role, or how do you continue to be a part of updating the program? Is that still happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first joined, there's a structure and there's certain goals every 3-6 months that you want to meet. But there's a lot of room where there's not a ton structure. That's really up to you. So it's going out in the shop, and we would spend a week or two. Oh, you're back, Mike. but
Okay.
But we would spend a week or two in the shop and then develop a program for how to train and actually understand our machines. The next apprentices who come in will pass down that training that we kind of developed ourselves. They would edit it and make it a little bit cleaner, and then ask us questions and how we approach different people and different things that came up. And that training kind of keeps going. So as we're progressing, we continue to pass down more trainings we created, and then you have a whole network of past apprentices. I think we've had maybe 6 now, and you have the whole network, and everyone's pretty close with each other that they can refer back to us.
Are they all still with Edro?
They are.
The apprentices? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Had,
You feel the
we've
same,
had a
Rob?
good history.
Yeah, exactly. It's working. So do you agree, like, in terms of the changes that you've seen in the program that you've been part of? Can you speak to that also?
Well, more specifically, I guess if, like, just to double down on what Nick said, it's kind of just, helping out all the younger people, not quote younger people, but the newer people coming up.
Yeah.
Me specifically, I kind of transitioned to a applications engineering role where I'm not really doing too much in the shop. I'm kind of just, I'm more on the road nowadays. Well, minus this whole coronavirus.
Yes, exactly.
But before that, I was basically on the road 50 to 75% of the time.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's given me a lot of insight and a lot of, it's definitely some valuable experience that I can kind of share with the younger guys coming up. And I've definitely been doing a lot of that, especially with our one guy, Jason, who's just starting to kind of follow behind me on some of the things that I've been doing. So yeah, but it's a lot of, close-knit communication and just trying to pass down the knowledge that you acquire through experience.
Have you noticed, I mean, you guys are young too, but I would imagine with each that comes in, like the next generation has a different learning style. Like they have different needs emotionally, like mentally. It seems they might want to go about this differently. Have you noticed that as you grow into the program, that the people coming after you prefer a different way to train and learn?
I wouldn't say I've noticed any kind of generational or by the year change as much as it is individual. So that's kind of where we like our program being still open, as we do have some structure. I think everyone kind of handles training and learning differently. As far as just year by year how they handle it, I don't think there's been a huge difference that I've seen.
And I always forget that Edro is that family of companies. Like you have access to more probably than I think you have access to in terms of expertise at your fingertips, right?
Yeah. And even some of our customers and people we work with in heat treat, I still, I'm constantly going back and forth, and they're teaching me things and I'm teaching them things on the metallurgy side. So, it definitely goes both ways.
What do you think the biggest challenge is right now to training? And not right now, COVID, right now, just in general.
I think the one aspect that was most important for me was getting actually to a customer and seeing what our materials are going into. And some of the challenges are finding the right customers who are going to let you in. We obviously have some very well-established, long-lasting relationships with these customers, and that's how we've done it in the past. Is we'll bring a new guy in on a sales call, and they'll be close with them, and we'll let them know, hey, we would love to show them around the shop if we can bring this guy in, and if they say yes, then we'll bring them along. And actually, that's how they'll see how the material flows and how the industry works. So I think the more exposure you can get to your customers, your suppliers, and everywhere in between, I think that's the challenge and the most important part. And it's not just the materials, but also the actual production of some parts, and using our design team and engineers who can help customers design their own parts. I mean, all of that comes back to us having good enough training where we can propose these solutions to our customers too. Because like Rob said, conformal cooling's one, but then there's also some testing on different applications where it's not just related to cycle time. So
Right.
those are some really interesting ones. And we actually have kids who have come out of school, or new apprentices who have come out of school, who have experience in the school learning about these different processes. So we like to learn from them too as they come in.
Yes. There you go. That's key. What would your advice be on how to, you guys were attracted to this industry, you got trained, you're still here, you're growing, you're moving along in your careers. What's advice to other companies within this space to attract that next generation?
Well, I would say the thing that has kept me with Edra the longest is there's always the room for growth. And I came in really going, I want to be outside sales. That's all I want to do. I'm very interested to do that. And I think it took me within a year and a half of traveling, I was like, you know what, maybe I want to be more in the shop or more in the office doing different projects. And I worked with Mike and another guy who was with us on what opportunity would make sense for both me and the company. So that's how I ended up switching my role into more of a marketing, internal marketing role, and then still committing to some time on the road as well as outside sales. So it was that flexibility and the opportunity to quickly grow within the company that has kept me with the company for so long.
Yeah, I'd agree. The opportunity for growth and learning new things, and learning a wide variety of things is definitely pretty exciting.
As far as what we're trying to do at Edro, is we're a small company, Rob said, run with a very family atmosphere within a very, very large group. Guys who join us, guys and girls that join us, they can really decide where and how far they want to go, depending on their own abilities. And that's the sort of person we want to attract. We're not going to drive people to do this and do that. People are going to be left a lot to prove to their own devices on what they want to do. This is part of the training, really, not to smother them, but let them be able to be, feel that they're capable of making a decision. So, make a few mistakes and learn from those mistakes and sort of thing.
Well, and they can make what I like is that they're making their own path. You're like presenting them this menu, right? You're showing them everything. And then it's up to you as an individual to figure out what you like, what you're good at, and then make it happen for yourself. Don't pigeonhole me into, you have to be a machinist. You have to be whatever it might be. So I think that's refreshing.
Yeah, but it's also not just to send them on their way and turn our backs on them. I mean, they should be encouraged to come back and tell us if things don't work. Nick gave the example about how passionate he was to get into sales. And then once he got into it, he found, well, it perhaps wasn't exactly what he imagined. And this is exactly how things should be. You don't know when you leave school. I mean, I didn't know I wanted to come to America before I did, but you have to look at the things this way. But to be able to get these bright people that are open and really want to develop and grow, that's going to be the success of our business. And I believe other businesses that make a similar kind of approach for their future investment. Future
investment.
Wow. So there's quite a bit to unpack there. So I want to start off by introducing our guests. So you could give a little wave when I call your name. Here's Nick Carroll, who is in sales, right? Rob Coran is in metallurgy, or at least started in metallurgy. And then Mike Guscott down there, who was and is instrumental in Nick and Rob's training. I mean, this is his passion. So I think there's gonna be a lot of insight from Mike too. I've known Nick and Rob for probably almost about 5 years when I first met them, when they basically started. And I've known Mike for quite a bit longer, since he's been with Edro, and Edro has been a longtime supporter of mold making technology. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Ryan, how do you want to start? I know Rick, I know Nick and Rob a little bit. So
yeah, let me take. I think I want to get to know them, and I think the audience wants to get to know them a little bit. You know, they've got a unique path and interesting story. Maybe, you know, I'll just throw it to Nick and Rob, and you guys maybe, you know, give a short little answer on this. You know, why'd you pick manufacturing? Why'd you pick mold making? Like, you know, you're going to college and the world is your oyster. Why did you focus on mold making and manufacturing?
Yeah, they offered us a job. But no.
That's probably the story of most people, but we'll go on.
Right. No, I think when we were in school, there's a lot of different career fairs and you get to meet all these different industries. And honestly, I didn't really see mold making, but I think Mike reached out to the school and we got passed on the apprenticeship program. And it was really the apprenticeship program that looked really interesting to me. And then that combined with the fact that we have the metallurgy background and we really want to use that in some industry, it seemed very, very cool to kind of join. And then once we start learning, it's involved with medical, it's involved with automotive, and pretty much everything we do.
Sure.
That's what really drew me in, at least.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, same. I was in the same boat as Nick. We were in a lot of the same classes together, going through Penn State, did homework together a lot. And we kind of just stumbled into this, and it's kind of really, it's really interesting to see where this is all going. And basically with regards to manufacturing and tooling is pretty much everywhere and involved in every facet of life. You know, everything that we consume is using some kind of tooling. And I feel like once you just get into this world, it's kind of, there's just a lot of opportunity, a lot of different paths to go down. And it was just really attractive once we started working in it.
Yeah, great. We say around here, it all starts with the mold. And so it sounds like you guys came to the same conclusion. All right. So Rob, it's super cool to say metallurgy. I would like to say that at least every day, but like, tell us a little bit about why you select metallurgy with your school.
I kind of just stumbled into it again. Basically,
that's
I started
a weird thing to stumble into.
It really is. It really is. I started out as a mechanical engineer going through the Penn State program. And once I took a strength and materials class, I kind of got an understanding of what this field was, but not really. Basically, if you're talking about metallurgy from a mechanic standpoint, or from a physics standpoint, it's a lot different from actually, you know, the properties of materials and that kind of thing. So I kind of blindly got out of mechanical engineering and just went into material science. Just based off of this one class, really. And I remember like the first day, you know, of my first full semester of material science, my heart kind of sank because I was just like, what the hell did I just get myself in here? And I kind of had to just buckle down and work through it. And when I did it, it was probably one of the best decisions ever. I couldn't really imagine doing anything else right now in my life. And I'm really trying to work on becoming an expert in tool steel. And definitely this company's given me an opportunity to do that. And I think within the next couple of years, I can make some pretty good strides and be a force to be reckoned with from the technical side in terms of tool steel.
Nice. I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, you don't stumble on too many people that say, you know, right out of the get-go, they want to be in outside sales. So talk to us a little bit about that journey. That you seem to be a little focused on being an outside seller, and then maybe you pivot a little bit. So what attracted you to outside selling?
Well, I think I started my career too. I was a metallurgist with Rob in school, but I knew I didn't really want to be. I had this vision that I'd be just kind of stuck in a lab, and I didn't want to do that. I always knew I wanted to go towards the business side of whatever I ended up doing. And then when I saw outside sales, it's a way that you get to interact with customers. It's a way you get to interact with management. You get to understand the products. If I wanted to become maybe a product manager, I really didn't know what exactly I wanted to do, but I know I really enjoy working with different people. And I like to go all over the place and travel at the time. So I was like, outside sales seems perfect. So that's kind of where I got to use my background with the metallurgy. And then I also get to learn more of the business side and then deal with a ton of different people. And that was what really enticed me to join on the
Great.
outside sales side.
Great. Well, Christina, I'm dominating the questions. How about you? You got anything? Anything
I
on
like,
top?
yeah, I like what you said there, Nick, too, because and you fell into or stumbled into an industry that's really a community too. So if being a people
yeah.
person, what a wonderful place to end up. You're lucky. I'll put it that way.
Hard to see the same people, all the trade shows
Yeah,
and everywhere
yeah,
you go. It is
yeah.
close knit.
It's wonderful. So let's go back a little bit because I have been having a lot of talks with people in the industry. Like Ryan said on the onset of this talk, like workforce development comes up a lot, training and education comes up a lot. What is your opinion about, before you even get into the work world, when you look at where you came from and the college and the university, the curriculums that are out there for what you're doing today, in plastics, maybe mold making specifically, what do you think is lacking?
I would say just exposure almost to the generation. I think a lot of people aren't sold necessarily when they're looking for a job on what industry they're going into. Some people, sure, that's a big factor, but I just honestly didn't really know the industry at all. And I think once I found out about it, it was very interesting. So I think just in general, exposure to the people coming out of college is something that might be lacking a little bit.
Do you agree,
Yeah,
Rob?
I would agree with that. It's kind of like a secret that's in plain sight, because everybody has this kind of grandiose ideas of going into, I don't know, the aerospace industry or, these cool high-tech lab positions, using their degree to work in the lab, like Nick said. But really, everything we consume, like, the whole world basically runs off of this, manufacturing and tooling, and it's not really even talked about that much in the universities at all. And I think that's kind of it's kind of disappointing to have that situation. The professors tend to get, like, I think I said this in the previous interview. The professors tend to get you bogged down in the weeds with all this, hardcore science stuff, which is important to an extent.
Yep.
But a lot of the real world problems I found, and even talking to my friends in other industries, it's not so concise with that stuff. It's a lot of not for lack of a better term, shoot from the hip kind of approach to things, and really just trying to immerse yourself in the industry and trying to kind of learn from your customers, and basically build up an experience backlog that you can draw from, and then also use your knowledge that you picked up in the university.
So for both of you, when was the first time you stepped foot into a shop environment?
For me, it was probably within 3 months. I think I started just to a customer that we have a really good relationship with, getting to go into their shop. Obviously, already had been through Edro, started to learn our products a little bit. And then I was going in strictly as an apprentice at that point. And the customer got to show me around, show me where the material's used, show me mold bases, a mold being built. And I never really had a good picture of that. I mean, you look at a cap for a water bottle and you never think it's a crazy technological machine it's coming from, but they really are impressive. So that was one of my favorite aspects.
Yeah, it was a little bit longer for me. I think I was in the shop for almost a year until I got out and saw a customer. I was kind of just focusing on getting our internal heat treat and our quality as best as it could be, So that was a task in itself. And then I don't think I even got out of the shop for about a year.
Okay.
So
It's interesting how when you get all that education, though, and part of any of your programming curriculum was not to get you into an environment where what you're learning is actually being applied. So it sounds like that's what's missing, right? So application.
Yeah. I would say they give you all the tools, but you don't know how to use them, or they don't even give you any hints on how to use them.
Okay.
Right. Until you're actually out in the real world there. So it's a little frustrating. It's not a steep learning curve, but you have to kind of take your lumps a little bit before you get a handle on things. I found, especially being on the application side of things, just because, and I've noticed this with the newer guys. You know, the first couple problems they get, they kind of just want to, quote unquote, take it to the lab or kind of overanalyze things. And sometimes it's just, it's thinking outside the box with the tools you already have. And it's kind of just, it's a lot of, I wish in school they would focus more on like trends and on like how to think things through in a rough sense rather than getting bogged down with like hardcore calculations and stuff like that.
And theory,
I thought that was,
right?
I thought that was a little, you know, I think I would have did a little bit better in college if they took that approach.
Very heavily research.
Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit now to like having an apprenticeship training. Now I know what you've experienced at Edro, but maybe Rob, you can start. I don't know if you other colleagues in the industry, like what do you think's missing overall in the industry's apprentice training programs overall?
That's tough to tell because, or it's tough to say because I only know what our situation is. I don't know how other shops handle things or how other companies handle things. For me, I just like to hammer this home. I think I didn't learn, let's put it another way. I don't think a lot of things really sunk in, or I was able to build up this ability to problem solve on the fly until I started seeing customers and until I was put under pressure on the spot. I think being put under pressure on the spot is extremely helpful. And it does wonders for you. I mean, you will never forget anything when you're sitting in front of 12 engineers and they're all looking to you to solve their issue or to come up or say something that's going to make the situation better. And you never forget that. And you know, even the failures too, as much as the failures suck and they're headaches, you just, when you go through that, you will never, ever forget it. It's just seared in your brain. And then you could always pull from that, you know. I'm sure Mike has a lot more stories than I do in my 3 years of doing this, but there's been some stressful times and they've definitely helped to, you know, sharpen the sword, so to speak.
That's great. Nick, do you have any thoughts on that, on other apprenticeship programs maybe that you've heard of?
Yeah, so I don't know many in the industry, but I do know in general some of my friends who have joined different apprenticeship programs. And it seems like they still, even though they're going through the company and learning the full company, I think they kind of get pigeonholed into one job. And it's, if you leave this specific job or you don't want to do it, then there's no room for you. Or there's not even a conversation to be had. Where when I was originally doing outside sales, I knew Mike and Charlie Goodwillie at the time, talking to them and just saying, hey, I really appreciate this opportunity so far. It's been a year and a half in here, and I the travel and 50% or 60%, whatever it was going to be at the time, just wasn't working for me. But I felt comfortable enough to come to them because they always told me, hey, if you're not enjoying something or there's different opportunities, we could definitely find that. And I think as an apprenticeship program goes, you're looking for someone to grow with the company and have a full career. That's definitely needed. And I think that's something that is missed from a lot of different programs.
Okay. Now I know I'm a little more familiar with Edro's program, but I know Ryan is not. So Ryan, do you have some questions about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I many years ago, I went through not an apprenticeship program, but a training program in a different industry. And it did allow for some of that growth, but it also had some of that pigeonholing that you just talked about, Nick. So I'm curious, just like maybe Nick, just because you kind of addressed it, like describe a little bit what the current Edro model looks like. Like, you know, give me 30 seconds to a minute, you know, time, demand, soft skills, hard skill development, like give, you know, someone that's saying like, oh yeah, apprentice program, it's going to be, no, tell us what Edro's program looks like.
Sure. So, I mean, everyone, I'd say the first 3 months kind of start the same. We're going to start at one of our plants where we make our key product, and you're going to go through the plant and you're going to meet the shop guys. You're going to understand how our main product is developed and how it's flows through our shop. You're going to see our different machines and work with our machinists. I think that's a base level that everyone kind of needs. And then it kind of tailors off a little bit, depending on where your first end goal is. I would say I was doing sales, so I start working with some of our different sales teams, working on the inside, working on the outside, traveling to our different plants, traveling to different customers, doing some more trainings based on plastic injection molding to get that good background. I believe, Mike, you had a great book at the time, What is a Mold?
Yeah.
And that was one of my first. I'm sure a lot of people have seen that book. And
I think, yeah.
yes, and then we really look towards the apprentices to kind of focus themselves too. So I remember, I know I'm going to go into some kind of sales originally. I know I'm not great at sales yet because I haven't done it. So I'd start talking to Mike and talking to other sales guys. Hey, how did you train? How did you learn? And reaching out to different team members and kind of developing a training program myself. Obviously, Edro has it a little bit structured, but a lot of it's on you too to kind of find things out. And I think that helps once you get on your own in the industry, to not have this handbook that's telling you, okay, you do this today, you do this tomorrow, and going down this checklist. Instead, it's be a little forward thinking yourself and kind of help develop the program. And then once you're past the few stages we have, 3 months, you do this training, and in the meantime, fill in the gaps yourself. In the next 3 months, you're going to be focusing on inside sales, work with these people, fill in the gaps yourself. And that's kind of how we left the program. It's become maybe a little bit more structured through the years, just because we kind of know what's working better for everyone. And we know when you're in the shop, you can work with these guys. They're really good at training. But it's not a day-to-day, here's your task, get them done. It's very much the apprentices help themselves kind of develop their own program.
Great. Now I've worked with Christina for a long time, so I know Christina's gonna want to ask you, both of you guys probably, what's been the biggest impact and where did you grow? So I don't know. I'm sure you're going there, Christina. So
Yeah,
I'll let you ask that question. Go for it.
So let's start with Rob there. So yeah, I have to, from all those years, what do you think has been the most impactful component of your training at Edro?
Aside from being on the road and learning from experience, I think the company, they've been really supportive of me, letting me go to conferences, getting me in touch with other metallurgists from the mill. I think that's been completely invaluable to my training, my education overall. I've worked with some really, really top-notch metallurgists from the mill in Austria. I've also been exposed to a lot of guys who are really good with the heat treat side of things, who've kind of, taken me under their wing. Also, from the Udalholm side, Patricia Miller has been a very,
Oh yes,
she's been a very good mentor to me, and she definitely took me under her wing there for about 6 months when I was living in Chicago. So just the company's been really great, just getting me tons of training and letting me go to all these conferences and just letting me absorb and learn from the best in the industry. So that's been the most valuable thing for me, I think.
How about you, Nick?
I think it's working with everyone in the company, starting from the shop floor to inside sales, outside sales, accounting even, and then management, and having all those connections made within the company. Now working more on the marketing and sales side, I can go to any single level and be like, hey, we really need to push certain things, and just feeling comfortable being able to talk to the president or someone else, the shop floor, anywhere in between. That's, I think, the most impactful for me.
Accessibility. All right. So here's a tougher one. So, well, maybe not. So what, in the past 2 years, let's say, what area or what skill have you, honed or grown with the most within Edro? Nick.
I would say, I was going to let Rob take that. No, I would say, I think for your first couple of years, no matter what your job is, you're really just trying to learn, and you're being kind of told what to do, and you need some help in that aspect. But over the last 2 years, now that we've been here over 5 years, I feel like it's being more proactive and finding areas or seeing areas within the company where you go, hey, we can do something about this and improve something. There's different trainings we can do with the team, and feeling more comfortable like you can contribute and not just be sitting there and learning the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing for me. I feel very comfortable giving my recommendations and standing firm behind my recommendations when it comes to material issues or heat treat recommendations, or even sometimes design features that I've seen in the past. But I'm definitely very comfortable just giving my recommendation and kind of just sticking to it,
I love it. All right. So Ryan and I well, nobody can get away without talking about COVID. And Ryan and I were speaking about that this morning, actually. So I know, Ryan, you have some questions about that.
Well, I
Right.
mean, yeah, I mean, you can't you can't have a conversation today without talking about COVID and whatnot. So maybe for you, Rob, like what has been the impact of COVID on just your training, either that you're training somebody or that you're going through training? What's been the impact?
Not too much of an impact. I still do a lot of WebExes with customers. And we do a lot of internal trainings that I've led a lot of presentations, which is with our internal sales team.
Would you normally be doing that in person and just doing it virtually now?
Sometimes, mostly for customers. I tend to do a lot of presentations for customers when time permits. But yeah, it's just most of it's been done on WebEx in the past 8 months. So it hasn't been too much of a detriment. Definitely the face-to-face time has kind of gone down, and you're definitely not getting that valuable when the customer kind of takes you through a shop and you're getting the down low and what's going on and what kind of problems he's having. That's definitely missing. So
yeah, that body
we're doing our best with the WebEx, but that's all we could do at this point.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, hey Nick, maybe just take a step back a little bit, and how are you dealing with virtual learning and communications during a COVID environment? You have a slightly different role than Rob, so like, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's some benefits to the virtual learning. We started within Edro, at least, doing a bi-weekly training with different industries, different products, and it's just an opportunity to get the sales team together and at least have some resemblance of social gathering with everyone, and at the same time do these trainings that probably didn't have the time when everyone was on the road constantly. But that being said, the virtual meetings and building relationships with customers, it's just not the same, and I don't think that will ever be a complete replacement. And then when we think towards the apprenticeship program, I think if I was to join and then try to learn the industry without physically being able to go into shops and see things, at least that's how I learn. I don't think you can really replicate that exactly. I think that's something that has to be done in person, and hopefully we get back to that sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly allows you and me and us that have kind of, we're out of the classroom, have a little empathy for those students around the world that are navigating this situation today. Okay, Christina, I know you've probably got one or two questions, and then we're going to bring in the architect of this.
Yes, exactly. So I want to leave your thoughts, Rob and Nick, and we'll start with Rob. Just, you are now, I got to almost consider you seasoned. You're 5 years in. You're young, but you've been doing this. You're learning so much. So Rob, give me one piece of advice for somebody coming in, and just one on how to train them, how to best train them and to keep them engaged and want to stay with a company, not so much the industry, but even the company.
I would say if you could surround yourself, if your company has good people that will let you kind of be put in the fire, so to speak, without completely failing, I think that's invaluable. Like I said before, just being put under pressure like that,
I like that.
It just sears anything you're having issues with, or anything that you're trying to learn. It just sears it in your head, and you just get a lot more confident going through that stuff. So that would be my biggest advice.
Nick.
I know we've probably said this enough, but I think you have to show that there's growth available within a company, especially if you want to keep them. Otherwise, you're just going to feel like, all right, I'm going to get a 2 or 3% raise. I'm going to stay in this exact position, and that's kind of what this company's offering me. You have to be able to show them, hey, there's chances to advance. You can become a product manager. You become the head metallurgist. They have to see a physical path kind of to some of these positions. And if you don't have that, then I feel like they're just kind of feeling like they're stuck in a job, and there's no reason to stay with the company then.
Got it. Good advice. Good advice.
Great advice.
All right.
Great advice.
Let's move on to Mike, right, Ryan?
Yeah. So Mike, I jokingly call you the architect of this.
I like
Christina. So you feel free to use that, by the way. So hey, you and I have talked over the years. You've got a lot of passions. Obviously, training is a passion of yours. So how did training become a passion of yours throughout your career?
Well, I've always felt that for the future success of the company, we've got to do something with people and then develop those people, try to make them the main feature of the company for future years. Edro is a producer and developer of mold steels and mold bases, as you know, and since 2007, Edro has been part of a very large group with Bola Uddeholm, the Vorstalpine Group, with about 50,000 people worldwide. So we are, as we said earlier, a small company within a large group. But our main customer is mold making. And as I think you said earlier, Christina, it's a tight community. It's what I always used to call a cottage industry, which was when people in olden times used to make things in their cottages. It's not quite like that anymore. There is a sense of knowing everybody in this industry. So how you present your products and how the relationship build with the key people, I think, is very important. And to do that effectively, we have to ask ourselves, what do these people really want from us? What do you as mold makers want your mold steel supplier to be able to do? Of course, you want them to supply the best steel, and of course, you want it to supply its price or the best value, as we say. But I mean, I think it's not enough for us just to build a team of people and then out to knock on doors and phone them up or whatever you do today to make contact and build a relationship. We have to be able to add something. And I thought, well, to do this, if we're selling steel, we need to have people that are educated in steel, so that when we go along and people have problems, and basically problems, I believe, are opportunities to show what we can do. If we can find out what people's problems are and then help them solve those problems because of our education in those areas, that to me would build a value to the mold maker. So getting back, my passion for training people has been to find the right people, to approach it in the right way with a general plan that allows people not just to come in and say they want to be a this or a that, but come in and learn a little bit from the ground up about our business. I was apprentice of a tool and die maker many, many years ago, and I didn't like the job at all. I couldn't wait for it to end, and then I would leave. And I've never considered myself a die maker since then, because I was basically a failure at it, I think. But what I think we need to do is look at things that we feel good about and that we can get a passion to do, and try to build an environment in a company where people, as Rob said earlier, you can talk to them about, and there's make mistakes, but you shouldn't be made to say, well, I think this, and somebody can say, well, that's the crazy idea I heard about. This is the kind of environment we've tried to build at Edro. So going back to your question, really, is training my passion? Well, I think the most exciting job I've ever had in all these years is this one. Hire people, and they can be in 10 years' time in key positions. And I'm going to be really disappointed with them if they're not, because we've selected them real carefully. So that's a roundabout answer to a simple question.
No, it's great. Thank you for that. And I think that background feeds exactly like you said, that this is the most fulfilling job that you've had in your career right now. So that background's important. And yeah, thanks for sharing that, Christina.
And you can just feel your passion. I remember, Mike, when you first, I think we must have been at a trade show, and you approached me with a little piece of paper, like in a pad, and you had sketched out, I want to write this thing about my new initiative. And I think Patricia Miller was there too, saying, I want to get this in the magazine because we're talking about training, and this is what I'm going to be focusing on now. So talk about your vast amount of experience. How do you think apprenticeship training has changed the most over the years? Like, what have you seen?
Well, it's changed enormously. I mean, when I was apprenticed, I will vividly remember my first day when I had to wait by the guy that was the gatekeeper, or it was at a factory. They built. I was in the tool and die shop, and in this factory that built heating and ventilating equipment. And I thought, this is a miserable, what have I signed up for? This is miserable. They came in fog, riding their old bicycles, and this was a long time ago. So what I'm getting to here is that there was an apprenticeship there that I hated, and I had the arrogance of youth, and now I've got the arrogance of old age, but I had the arrogance of youth there. And I thought, this is not for me, and I thought that they won. The problem with it was only that you had to go and make the tea and do things, and they would never let me do anything interesting because I would always pick it up, you see. So it was a pretty miserable experience, but I think it was, if you take that was one apprentice, and now the apprenticeship we have and we're talking about is to hire people that have been educated specifically in the area where we are and where our customers, I think, can use help. Most mold makers aren't metallurgists or don't know very much about metal, really. I mean, they're very, very good at what they do, building the molds. And some of them know quite a lot about this subject. But generally speaking, your mold maker will not be an expert on steels. And I think they shouldn't be. They have enough to do with building the molds. We should be able to come in and help them there. And we can't do it unless we have the expertise that we're to build up here, and with people like Nick, Rob, and the others, and then, as you mentioned, Patricia Miller and other people today that are leaders in this. And I think these people really add the most to the customers, and it's what you can do for your customers that's important. We shouldn't lose sight of that, I think.
Yeah, great point.
I think that ties nicely too, Ryan or Mike, into what Rob was saying about being put under pressure. That seems to be what was missing back then. You need to be put under some sort of pressure to be accountable for what the company wants you to do, right? That's how you rise. Ryan's always talking to me about that, right? During struggles and challenges, you have to rise. And that's, I think that's my takeaway from this is get under some pressure and see what you're made of.
Yeah, your shirt should stick to your back when you're in these difficult times with these problems. And you will never forget that. And if you solve those problems, you'll never forget the solutions to that. Yeah. So, I mean, that's really what you're seeing here, Rob, that you know, it's exactly how I can remember all the I can remember going to a company, I won't say who they were, we had to crack steel, and the guy was livid. He was convinced that the steel was wrong. We were convinced that it wasn't the steel at all. So in the end, we resolved it, but it was a pretty sticky situation for a time, and we resolved it amicably, and then we moved on. But how you solve the problems are really what you're judged by. It's not how you go and make calls in it when there's nothing to talk about, really. I believe that's true of most businesses, you know.
It is. Now, Ryan, I know that you work a lot with associations within Gardner, so I'm sure you want to talk about that a little bit in terms of apprenticeships.
Yeah, maybe Mike, just give us a little bit of, are there organizations or associations that you have worked with, as you're developing this apprenticeship program? Any guidance from anybody or that you could share with our audience?
Well, we've worked with several universities here, and the people at the universities, they give us what they feel that they need. And as far as the trade organizations are concerned, we haven't really worked with specific, plastic or other organizations there. We try to an overview of what we're trying to do and ask for their critique and then any suggestions or input. And we've used some things they had from various sources to I think to develop and improve what we're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. The universities, kind of what you said. You're looking in your program for that educational component, and you've found that for EdRow at the universities, in particular Penn State or other ones around the country. Now that you're probably now that this is out, or probably reaching out to you and trying to get their best and their brightest in the program. But Christina, I know again we talk about rising, so you want to talk about maybe their number one takeaway?
Yeah. So I know Rob and Nick answered this, but what do you think, Mike, is the number one key to a successful apprenticeship program that you can share with others that need to update theirs, need to change theirs? What do you think?
Well, I think if we think about it, if we want, first of all, I mean, we have to ask ourselves, what does our company want? Well, for our company, we want to have the best team of people that we can have, so that Edro, when people think of Edro, they think of people that have the brightest and the people that can give them most help if they have problems regarding steel and in their mold making. So if we try to hire people where we say, come and learn about our business, just have an overview in an 18-month apprenticeship program, and then decide if it's for you, and if so, which area you really feel you want to focus on, because most of them have no idea what they want to do. They've never worked. They've been studying all the time. You know, you pay them. I tell them jokingly that they should pay us really. We're more than they are to us, but that didn't go down very well, I think. But I think really, if people want to do this, it's building a future for the company. And I hope that these people can go on and run the company if you go back down the road 10 or 15 years. And what could be better for any company if you're a mold maker or a steel producer, or in your case, you know, you're doing your job. You need to really create people that can do the job ideally better than you can do it yourselves today to take the company forward in the future. And I think there's a real opportunity through a well thought out and carefully designed apprenticeship program to be able to do this.
Yeah. And I also think it's key that you work, it's not just you developing it and handing it to them. Like Rob and Nick had a hand in changing it, developing it, you know, making it. And I think that's fantastic. It's not one-sided.
Well, we're not experts in this. We're asking for their help. You know, they're like my grandkids, these kids. So I have to ask them to help me with this generation gap. And I have to phone Nick when I can't get onto the WebEx and all these. Seriously, it is a big opportunity, I think. I think there's a big need for people that have been educated here, bright young people. They don't really know what they want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us have an opportunity, I think, to try to develop something that eases people into a job rather than says, right, come and join us and you can. We have one apprentice. I'll give you an example. The lady, this one. Well, I shouldn't tell you. Actually, no, it isn't. Actually, we've only got one lady anyway. She worked in internship, and she can tell you this herself. So I'm not telling you anything you wouldn't do here. He had an intern at Schindler, the elevator people, you know. Yeah. And when we came and we talked to her, I said, well, why wouldn't you want to go and work at Schindler? You told me that you were pleased with what you did and everything worked well. Yeah, she said that they were, but the problem with them was I could have gone and worked and they would have given me this job as an engineer, and I would have been stuck in that little cubby hole and didn't want that. I wanted something where I could have a chance to travel or look and I could have my opinion listened to, and that's what I want to do with Edro. So, I mean, we created something at Edro that I think attracted these people in a way. And then hopefully we followed through and gave them this. So I think that was, from my side, what I tried to do as far as creating something that was sustainable and was
sustainable. That's a good word.
Getting their support kind of thing.
So, Christina, we have about 2 minutes left. I've got one final question. I'm going off script here. I'm going off script. So I'm going to ask each one of these gentlemen, what is the biggest surprise that you learned about yourself through the apprentice program? We'll start with Nick, and then we'll work our way around.
Biggest surprise. That's a tough one. Thinking about it, I guess the easiest answer for me is just that I didn't enjoy the travel as much as I thought I would. Not that I don't enjoy travel, but just the constant amount when you're doing outside sales. And that was something when I came into the company, I would have told you 100% that's something I'll enjoy for the rest of my life. So as much as I do like going to see different places, that was when I found out pretty quickly. I was like, you know, this is either for you or not for you. And it just wasn't for me.
That's fantastic. Great job. What about you, Rob? Biggest surprise you learned through your journey?
Probably the opposite. I
knew you were going there.
Yeah. So yeah, I I really liked getting on the road and traveling and, you know, doing the presentations to the customers. I think that really shocked me. I thought I was just going to be in the shop most of my career. And now I prefer to be on the road and prefer to be in front of customers and doing seminars and presentations and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's great. What about you, Mike? Mike, you the architect. What's the biggest surprise you've learned about yourself during the
Well,
journey?
the fact that I could do this, I basically am just a simple tool steel salesman from England with a tool making apprenticeship, and to be able to develop something that I think can add to the company long term, and also give attract and give a real cornerstone of talent for the future for the company. That's been the biggest surprise to me, that we could. I mean, it's like when we started with the Ryoline material, we never expected it to grow like it did, and with this program, I think it's kind of the same way in a way. And it's not because of what I've done; it's because of
It's everybody.
Everybody from, I think it was Eric Penn's idea originally to start this program, and then Terry and his brother and Chris and others, and then through in the Bowler organization there, so I think it's what we've been able to do at Edro that's been surprising to me, and I'm hoping that it's just the start at this point, really.
That's awesome. Well, Mike, I want you to hook me up with that lady apprentice, because I want to continue this story, and I would love to have somebody else. And being a female, that could be an interesting conversation. So,
well, yes,
connect me.
We have 6 apprentices now, and one of them is female. We're not talking about hiring females or males here, but we just want the best people,
Absolutely, but I would have something in common with her, so I would like to
You
talk to her.
certainly would, and I will be pleased to hook you up with her, but we will come back to you on.
All right. Well, gentlemen, that about does it. I want to thank you, Mike. I want to thank you, Nick and Rob, and to everybody watching. Thank you so much for your time and your participation. Don't forget to check out IMTS Spark for other upcoming sessions in our What's New and What Works in Mold Manufacturing series. And remember, Ryan, you want to say any final words?
No, just thank you for the opportunity to reconnect, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time we get together.
Awesome. And remember, for everything mold making, visit moldmakingtechnology.com. Have a great rest of the day.